everybody, and welcome to another brand new episode of T Watches a Scary Movie. My name is T, and of course, we're talking scary movies. I appreciate y'all tuning in for another brand new episode here on YouTube to see the video version, or if you're listening in to the audio only version on Spotify or Podbean, I appreciate you tuning in. Remember, new episodes go up every Wednesday night. Tonight, this one's going up a little bit early because it's a bit of a shorter episode, but we usually go up every Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on youtube.com/C/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. Again, youtube.com/C/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie for the video version. And like I said before, if you want the audio only version, you're doing it while you're working out, while you're working, all this other kind of stuff there, you can find us on Podbean and Spotify. Just search T Watches a Scary Movie. And of course, follow me on my channels, y'all. I'm on Twitter as Axdew. That's AXDEW. Find me there. You can see all my fun conversations I'm having with Fun Hollywood and everything like that. And of course, you can see me on Instagram at Theron_Reynolds. That's where I post my thirst traps and everything now. Got to keep y'all coming back for more and everything. So you can follow me on those as well. If you ever want to join our watch parties, because every Wednesday night after the show, we're usually watching at least one of the movies that we talked about in the show, and we're getting some TV back in there as well too. We're kind of in a reset because it's the beginning of the year, but you can go to discord.gg/tscarymovie. Again, discord.gg/tscarymovie to join our Discord and watch some scary movies with us. So, what are we talking about today? Well, last week I had a great conversation with my good friend Eric Brady talking the new Scream 5. We got a lot of content out of that, and as y'all have seen this week, I already dropped 2 episodes about that. Me and Eric talked for a while. One of my absolute favorite episodes yet, just because we completely dissected Scream 5 and had such a great time talking about it. So I've released 2 parts of that interview right now. They came out this past Monday, this past Tuesday. You're going to see the rest of those hit next week. We're going to spread this out just a little bit. But I thought we'd take a little break and get to another movie that I was really looking forward to talking to y'all about. So we're not talking Scream 5 this time, but we will talk about the fact really quickly that Scream 5 is doing bonkers in the box office right now. Initially, the hope was that Scream 5 would basically get about a $30 million opening weekend. I think is what they were saying, is what they were hoping it would end up coming in and pulling off here. But the fact that Scream just absolutely smashed that, oh God, because what did it end up doing? 48 or 53, something like that there now. It's made a lot of money. It's already surpassed Scream 4's entire US box office, which is absolutely insane to think about. But that's super awesome because that means we should be getting reports on Scream 6, maybe Scream 7 sooner than later. This has been a monster hit. And honestly, we have to give big props to Sony and to Marvel for moving Morbius, because moving Morbius is definitely going to help Scream get these long legs. And the fact there's not really anything big and commercial and mainstream that's coming out for the next 3 weeks. So Scream has room to grow. It has room to stretch. This could be a massive hit. And yes, it's the first hit of 2022, and it's currently the best horror film of 2022 as well. So if you're asking this guy, I think we're going to get the announcement of Scream 6 sooner than later. It hits Paramount Plus here in about 3 weeks, about mid-February or so is when Scream 5 hits Paramount Plus. And then right now, I guess the physical release is rumored right now to be sometime in April, hoping like March instead. I'm going to pick it up one way or the other there. But I do feel that we're in store for an announcement sometime here in the next couple months. And if I was a betting man, I'd say they start shooting before the end of the year. A guy can dream. It might not be right, but they're at least going to announce it, in my opinion. They have to announce Part 6, Scream 6, before the end of the year. So we'll see. But I'm banking on the fact that that's going to happen. That movie is so good. Looking forward to seeing it again multiple times, whether it's in theaters or whether it's at home. I'm very much looking forward to seeing this one. So damn good. Go and see it if you haven't already, especially because then you can have fun listening to me and Eric jibber jabber for a couple hours across a few episodes about Scream as well. So definitely go and check that one out. But tonight, we are going to talk about a remake of one of my hidden gems, one of these random movies that I watched. I watched a couple of years ago because I was looking for random new shit to watch that I'd never tried out before. I don't know how I randomly ended up seeing this one. Like, I think it was free on Amazon Prime Video or something like that now. But we are talking the 2021 remake of the Slumber Party Massacre. Now, if y'all remember, the original film, The Slumber Party Massacre, was a film done in 1982, and it was a movie that was actually set up to be a parody of the slasher genre at the time, because in the early 80s, that's pretty much the perfect spot for the slasher genre. We had already gotten Halloween and a few others by that time. We're starting to get all these sequels. Friday the 13th was knee deep and going and everything like that. So Slumber Party Massacre was supposed to be like a parody for those, but the thing was is that it's like nobody caught that memo, so they took it as a straightforward horror movie. And it's an interesting one too, because it's absolutely a slasher, but I talked about this movie a couple years back. It's interesting because movies like Valentine are kind of reminiscent of it. Like, we know who the killer is. It's very, very painfully obvious who the killer in this movie is. There is no mystery surrounding that. I know Valentine added in, oh, it could be one of the girls. It's not fucking one of the girls. It's David Boreanaz. Of course, it's David Boreanaz. But Summer Party Massacre is fantastic because you know who the killer is the entire time. You don't really care about his motivations because in the original film, the whole idea was that this guy just escapes from jail or a mental institution, and he mistakenly ends up amongst all these girls there, both at their school and then at the aforementioned slumber party, where he starts just massacring them. He starts killing them all and their boyfriends and their teachers and anybody else that shows up to that house. And that was the simple formula. There was nothing else about that at all. That's it. That's all you need to know. Dude breaks out from prison, goes and starts killing all these girls. What's going to happen? They stop him. End of story. Now, I prefer the second movie, Slumber Party Massacre 2, if you recall, because one of the big selling points of the first movie is this killer has got this big, big power drill that he uses to kill everybody with. Like, it's absurd how big this drill is, and of course, it's phallic. It's supposed to be like imagery and symbolism and all that kind of shit there. And of course, he's preying upon helpless women at a slumber party. Like, there's a lot of symbolism in these movies and stuff. The second movie, for whatever reason, decides that it's going to take that same killer, but suddenly this killer is a rockabilly. For whatever, he's a rockabilly singer, and it's hilarious. He's got like a music video halfway through the movie and everything as well too. That drill is now a guitar that has a drill worked into it. Like, everything about the movie is so fantastic. I absolutely love both Summer Party Massacre 1 and Massacre 2. We watched 3 the other night. I gotta rewatch it again. I didn't feel the same joy from that one as I did the other two, but it wasn't necessarily bad. So it's gonna have to get a rewatch. It's not like these are particularly deep, like, intelligent films. They're not. Like, you know what you're watching when you get them. And it's always been fascinating to me that the first movie was intended to be parody, because you can kind of see that in it. And it's a perfect segue into this reboot, into this remake that we got, because the remake does not try to go too far from the formula, because it knows that there's no point of doing that. Like, realistically, you stick with what you know best and you hope to God that works out the right way. So, stop me if you've heard this before. In 1993, Trish Devereaux, who is one of the characters from the original film, so they kind of recycle that as well too. But Trish Devereaux is having a slumber party with her friends out in the middle of nowhere in California, and a random figure shows up. This random figure turns out to be Russ Thorne, who is the same name of the killer from the original film as well too, who makes his way inside the cabin and murders all of Trish's friends. And Trish fights him. Basically, he drills a hole in Trish's hand, but Trish ultimately walks away from the encounter by knocking Russ Thorn off into the lake nearby the cabin where her and her friends were staying at, and he's presumed to have drowned. So we fast forward from that point about 20 years later, I believe, because I think I guess like 30 because it's supposed to be modern day, but whatever, 20, 30 years doesn't really matter. But we go to modern day where Trish's daughter Dana is heading out for a girl weekend with her best friends. And Trish is obviously feeling hesitant about this, considering that even though it was all this time ago back in the early 90s, she doesn't want her daughter to be in danger because you never know what can happen. And we're led to believe, obviously, this is like the first time that Dana has had this kind of freedom to do that because Trish has had a hard time letting go of her fears and what she feel could happen to Dana because she doesn't truly believe that Russ Thorn is actually dead at this point. So Dana gets to go off with her friends, including her friend Maeve's younger sister Alex, who's stowed away with them as well. They get to their cabin; it's been renamed and everything. The car breaks down, and they start encountering all these weird things at the cabin, and we know what we're in for. Okay, if you've seen the other Slumber Party Massacre movies, you obviously know what's going to happen is that these girls are going to get there. Obviously, Russ Thorn is not dead. He's going to show up. He's going to start killing people. And that is the genius of this Slumber Party Massacre remake, written by Suzanne Kelly and directed by Danishka Esterhazy. It is basically doing what the original film set out to do. Because as you watch the first, I'd say about 30 minutes or so of the film, it's not a particularly long movie. It's only 86 minutes, just a bit over an hour. But the first like 30 minutes of the movie like set up obviously the backstory. We're getting like the original movie to kind of catch you up. That's the whole purpose of the 93 like segment that's in there. And it's fantastic because you look at it and it does feel dated because we're now in the point to where in 2022 we can look back at the 90s and say, God, this is so old, this is so long ago, things look so weird. And it does look weird. To their credit of the filmmakers is that they make the 90s segment of the film look so like weirdly different from the rest of the movie, and that's on purpose because they want you to make it seem, they want you to understand that this is a 80s slasher film, at least in this first half. And then they completely throw us for a loop because we finally realize at this point that most of this movie is actually parody, which is what the Slumber Party Massacre is. That's what it's supposed to be. Like what happens when Maeve's sister Alex finds out that there's somebody across the lake who may or may not be Ross Thorn back to kill her and all their friends. Surprise, it is. The girls all say, Slumber Party, but there lies the joke. They all pull out all these weapons that they've been hiding around the house, and they reveal that they know that he's alive, and they know that by coming back here, he's going to try to attack them. This is all basically a setup to get revenge for Dana's mother's Trish for what happened to her back in 93. And it's hard not to fall in love with the movie after that happens because before that, you kind of look at it as like, oh man, this came on Sci-Fi. It's going to be another just run-of-the-mill, mediocre, bougie, like Sci-Fi Channel horror film. But it works so well for it because the Slumber Party Massacre movies are not these deep works of art. Like they're making fun of everything that we enjoyed so much about those old 70s and 80s slasher films, and that's what works so well about them, and that's what makes them so good. Like ironically so, that's what makes them so good. And this is another great installment of this franchise because it knows how silly the franchise as a whole is. It doesn't try to push past that. It basically says, this is what we are. We're going to give you a little bit of that. Then we're going to turn it on its head. Then we're actually going to make a horror movie because there's 3 different phases of this. And again, the 90s segment is very much catching you up on what the entire idea of this series is, and it plays perfectly. Then the middle segment of this film to where it's parody at that point, to the point to where the guys that are in this, the young adults or teenage guys who are there to play off the girls. If this is back in the 70s and 80s, we'd be seeing all the girls naked and running around and acting stupid, and they're just like they're not written well in the least bit, but because we're not there anymore and there's been progression and folks can have well-rounded characters, it's all flipped around. And the guys are the sex object in this, which is fucking hilarious. It is absolutely hilarious. They even do a shower scene with one of the guys. It's like, this is so perfect. You know what you're doing. It's some of the best writing and directing for a horror movie. And not only that, but a comedic horror film that I've seen in a while, because it knows how to turn like those tropes on their heads and make it such an interesting film. Like, because there's guy one and there's guy two. Wait, I thought guy was in the house. No, that's guy two. Guy one was here the whole time. Like, this is an actual conversation that happens. And the fact that the guys even called themselves out on this as well, too. It's like, I should believe what you're saying, but I just can't believe you because you're a woman. And it's stupid and it's hilarious. This film is was a joy. It was an absolute joy to watch. And I realized that I gotta stop counting these sci-fi movies out before I actually get a chance to see them, because especially in this case, this was perfect. And it's weird to think that this came out, back in October of last year, and it went very, very much under the radar. So I started doing some research and saw there's a lot of positive reaction to this movie. Like, a lot of people really, really enjoyed it. And I don't think a lot of people saw it because, one, it's a Sci-Fi Channel movie, and two, it's a reboot of a, like, quality wise, whatever you could say about it. But I don't know if anybody would say the Slumber Party Massacre is like this super, super popular film that's out there or anything like that. And I think it really should be, because this reboot is timely given Scream 5 and everything that Scream 5 talks about in it. Like, because Scream 5 is a movie of characters finally realizing that we're in a horror movie. We can't do this stupid shit. This is why we die all the time. So let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, and let's see what happens. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't work out. I'm not going to talk about that here because we're not spoiling anything. But that's one of the best things about this film, about Summer Party Massacre, is that it's like Scream 5, to where these characters do realize that they're in a horror movie, and they're basically going against the grain of what they know could cause issues, to the point that after once we get into the third act, and we then realize the girls are in a much more serious situation than they ever thought that they could be, and that's when it falls into an actual horror movie. And then at that point, it's even better, because not necessarily that it's a scary film, not necessarily that the third act is like super strong or anything, but we're now attached to these girls. We know they're smart. We know that they've thought out everything about this entire situation. So when shit finally goes wrong, when it finally goes just off the rails for them, they're screwed. They're absolutely screwed. And I love that, because they're clearly shown to be the smartest characters in this movie. So what happens that even when you're the smartest characters in this film, everything just goes against you at that point. And again, I don't know how many times I want to say it, but I really did enjoy this movie. I had so much fun watching the Slumber Party Massacre reboot, to the point to where I really wouldn't mind them doing a sequel for it, because it kind of writes itself. You just do Slumber Party Massacre 2 as a reboot. You don't need to do anything special. Like, just do that, only in today's date, to the point to where they kind of set themselves up for it, because there is some very, very, very big, big, big direct reference to Slumber Party Massacre 2 in this film. You will see it almost right away when the guys show up in the modern part of the story and everything. Very, very big nod to that, which is fantastic, to the point that my good friend Mr. Eric Brady, who did the Scream episodes with me recently, was even asking about a certain something being in here. And Eric, yeah, we're gonna watch it, but you're gonna see that I'm not. They're not subtle with it. They're not subtle with this at all. The nods to Slumber Party Massacre 2, which is the better of the series, honestly. But again, let me just say this one more time so we're all on the same page here. This is not your elevated horror, which I love. Elevated horror. It's a fucking dumb term. But like, this movie is very, very much like, turn off your brain. You don't need to figure out who the killer is. You know who the killer is. It's not that hard to work out what the story beats in this movie are going to be at all. Just sit there and have some mindless old school horror fun. That is really what this Slumber Party Massacre reboot really is. And the acting truly isn't that bad either, which is honestly one of the really, really fun things about it. Like, I did really enjoy the fact that the cast in here, especially again for a sci-fi film, they really do. They really do know what they're doing. They're making good choices. They're not acting like crap is the best way to put that. Honestly, I don't know a better way to put that there. But it's really good, folks. You definitely are gonna want to check this one out. You got to come to a watch party tonight and watch it with us, y'all. Slumber Party Massacre 2021, the reboot. Yes. And so that is gonna do it for us tonight, folks. Yeah. I decided to break things up, like I mentioned, because the whole idea is that we talk so much about Scream. I couldn't just put it on this one episode, and I really didn't want to do a spoiler-free one because I had so much fun enjoying that film. Again, I'm going to see it multiple times. You should too. So make sure to go out support Radio Silence, our veteran cast of Roger Jackson, David Arquette, Nev Campbell, and Courtney Cox. And then all of our newcomers, support them. They absolutely deserve it for this work of art that they've brought to all of you in this time. And make sure you are back next week, because next week, January 26th, we're going to get to a couple that y'all have been really wanting to see. We're going to talk and we're going to watch Underwater and The Meg, a couple of ocean themed scary movies there. One very, very much in the deep, deep crevices of underwater horror. Now, but fantastic movies. I'm excited to talk those and watch those with y'all. We'll have some fun. We'll act like we're warm, even though we're in the midst of winter and it's going to be cold. I'm positive next week when we're talking about that. But you know the deal, y'all. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. Get that word out there. I always love it when y'all do, and I love the conversations y'all leave out there for me as well too. Hit me on Twitter, hit me on Instagram as well, because I love interacting with y'all. And then also make sure to check out a lot of my friends who have some great things going. Erie International. Absolutely love those guys. They're doing their retrospective right now on Scream 1, 2, 3, and 4. As well, they did a lot of fantasy filmmaking as well too recently on some of their episodes. Those guys are knocking it out the park. Make sure you're checking out everything they have to say. But that's going to do it for me, folks. You see my socials there. Give me on a follow. I'm T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared. actually Dewey is.
All right, that's going to wrap up part 2 of my discussion with Mr. Eric Brady about Scream 5. We got part 3 coming here soon, so be on the lookout for that. Folks, again, my name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.